A significant amount of snow is projected to fall on the MOV this weekend, and for those who are planning to shovel snow, doctors say it's important to use caution. Shori Carnum is a cardiologist with Camden Clark in Parkersburg. He says shoveling snow puts a lot of strain on the heart, even if it doesn't appear to be an intense activity. The people most at risk are those with any heart conditions, but he also says others such as smokers or people with diabetes are also at risk and should use caution. Carnum says people should be aware of cardiac signs and take precautions.
Take frequent breaks, dress warm. You should know the signs and symptoms if you're having a heart condition, especially if you get chest pain or dizziness or shortness of breath, then it's time to stop and seek help.
Carnum also suggests people should shovel heavy snow in smaller amounts. You can read more about how to protect your heart health in winter weather at WTAP.com.